Okay, this is the lecture for chapter 1, the very first part. Let me minimize this. Okay, so we're looking at the first chapter. Says, why should we study intercultural communication? I thought the first part was a little bit overdone, but anyways, when we finish part 1 and we do class activities, ideally you should be able to identify the 6 reasons to study intercultural communication that the book provides. We will come up with our own also. We're going to spend the bulk of our time on number 2, which is define, which means we're going to look at vocabulary and discuss the major characteristics of culture. And especially we're going to use the iceberg metaphor to look at the 3 levels of culture, and tons of vocabulary to talk about there. And then 3 is, yes, it's part of this chapter, but it's also it's the overall goal of this course, which is to get you started, or more likely get you further along your journey learning about intercultural communication. And hopefully you're curious about it and you are going to be very engaged in looking at how people have different values, and how people are not this intersecting identity complexity, that we are not simple. We are made up of lots of different and sometimes competing or contradictory elements, and we're going to learn how to be flexible with our communication. Okay, why is this doing this to me? I don't know. It doesn't want to. There we go. So, goal of this course is to talk about intercultural communication that is flexible. It would be nice if it was, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning, that old thing that the doctors used to say. I don't actually think they used to say that. That we could say, if you do this, everything will be fine. But we will go over theories, we'll go over some practical things that you can do, but basically every situation that you're in is going to require you to be both creative and adaptive. So you're going to have a lot of different tools that you can use. And then we're going to look at this first one, which is why should you study intercultural communication? As I said at the beginning, I thought the first section of this textbook went into way too much detail. So, and then of course, I made the same mistake, and I included too many details in the PowerPoint. I will be better going forward. So basically, technology has a huge impact on our communication. Every kind of communication, interpersonal communication and intercultural communication. And basically, I mean, we all know what AI is. I kept looking at that saying, Al, who the heck is Al? Okay. AI can lead to a lot of new job opportunities, but it can also cause problems, because one of the things that we know is when we are not face to face, there are many more opportunities for miscommunication to occur, because in some ways we don't know people as individuals, we know them as a screen name. And that's one of the reasons why when I teach communication classes, so I'm not in Connecticut anymore, why I insist that the classes be LRON, because I need to see my students and hear my students and interact with them. So one of the things they have found is that companies, not just those that deal with AI, but all companies that are committed to inclusion and that provide some kind of intercultural training or diversity training, they're more productive than companies that aren't. So reason number 2, the workforce is getting more diverse, both within the United States and globally. I like that, globally. So basically what happens is U.S. companies spend a lot of money sending U.S. workers abroad, and they're saying, short-term assignments, 3 months to 12 months. And what they're noticing is approximately 1 in 5 U.S. workers don't complete their global assignment. They come home early, or because they choose to, or because the company says you're not working out. Okay. Within the United States, there are a lot of workers who come from different cultures. Take a look at this. 16%, if we looked at 2018, 16% of the total U.S. population was not born in the United States. And that approximately 1/3 of people in the United States who weren't born in the United States came to the U.S. fairly recently, in 2000 or later. And especially in the tech industry, that's where we have a lot of highly skilled and highly educated immigrants coming to the U.S. So you've got people who grew up in the United States. You've got people who grew up China, Japan, Taiwan, Bolivia, Iran, Syria, wherever, and they're coming to the United States, they're interacting with each other, and that can be great, and it can cause problems. Okay, blah, 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 you can read all that. Key point. If you invest your energy and if you are committed to learning from culturally diverse people, you will find that it's going to be a little bit turbulent. It's going to be rocky. You can be uncomfortable, but ultimately it's going to be, I like this, fulfilling and exhilarating and eye-opening. Strain and stretching means you're going to grow. Okay. So reason number 3, more and more people in relationships that are they're not exactly like, all right, in for example, my grandparents, I look at my mother's parents. Grandmother's Italian, grandfather's Italian. They only looked at people within the Italian community. They had absolutely no interest in someone outside of that community. Well, that is no longer the case. If you look at this, 15% of married couples are interracial. That's my husband and I. Non-traditional families are now the norm. You have people who, we'll talk about what non-traditional families are in class, okay? And this does not all, when we're talking about different cultures, it does not necessarily mean someone from a different country. Excuse me. It can be people of different socioeconomic, I put this in air quotes, classes. It can be people of different races, can be people of different religions. So 14% of U.S. infants are multiracial or multi-ethnic. These are my kids. The population that identifies as 2 or more races is the fastest growing ethnic group in the U.S. Okay, so what we're talking about is, and there's a great example in the chapter, that someone who is multiracial or multi-ethnic goes beyond who am I? You know, people always, they talk about, people will come up to them and say, so what are you? Gosh, human being? Okay. and it's so much more complex than what are you or who are you. And those are important concepts to explore for these individuals and for anyone who is in an intimate relation. And we say intimate relationship. It doesn't necessarily just mean sex. It can be you're friends with someone, you are a very close coworker for them. Excuse me. And the more empathy you can show to someone who is not just like you, the deeper your relationship can be. Okay. Reason number 4, healthcare is a big one, and I'm looking at it here, and the book did too, especially 2 different aspects of healthcare. I'm thinking about the intergenerational. Okay, so you've got someone like, me, and my mom is getting older, and as what I think she needs medically and what she thinks she needs medically can be very different. And so, it's important for the two of us to have that conversation. And let's just say, let's go even, I want to say even more extreme than that. You've got parents who came from a different country and they're getting older, and their children who were maybe born in a different country, but who maybe identify as American, whatever exactly that means, as we'll talk about. Maybe their children have a different way of thinking about sickness, death and dying, and burial rituals than their parents do. And so it's important to have those conversations. Sometimes you will have people who don't speak English very well, and they're having their children or a family member who's going to translate for them, and the person who's translating maybe doesn't understand the medical terms, and maybe they learned something and they don't necessarily share this information with the rest of the family, who maybe need to know this information because this person is an elder in the family, and they deserve their privacy. So that can cause issues too. So if you're thinking healthcare is a field that you want to get into, definitely becoming a true interculturalist, isn't that a cool word? Would be very helpful. And it doesn't, in this class, we're not going to talk about necessarily how to interact with specific cultures. We're going to talk in general terms about how to be more aware of what goes into intercultural interactions. Whew, I feel like I'm talking really, really fast. Okay, reason number 5 is for your own personal empowerment. We're looking at social advocacy and social justice. So I like this first one. Self-empowerment means that you acquire knowledge that will help you question your own cultural assumptions and be more open to other cultures. This is something we're going to talk about an awful lot when we talk about norms and values. What we grew up with just makes sense to us. It feels right. It feels normal. And just because it's right and normal, these are air quotes all over the place, for us, does not mean that it's right and normal for everyone else. So we don't want to look at the world from only our own cultural lens or through our own filter, or only being able to tell a single story. Okay. As we become more knowledgeable about intercultural communication, we will become more aware of any biases or unjust issues in our workplace or in the larger world. You can become a kind of a leader. I don't know. People don't always want to be a leader. You can be a force, let's say, for more intercultural awareness. You can use your social media meaningfully. You can spend time on those issues that really need urgent attention, which is not to say that you have to do this. I'm not big on the have-tos. Well, I am for myself, but I try not to impose that on other people. Okay, and last of all, reason number 6 is about inclusivity, to increase your self-awareness and your awareness of other people. So, I like this first one. Inclusive intercultural communication means, we've kind of talked about this before, expanding our cultural and ethnic knowledge and growing diverse communication skills to make cultural strangers feel welcomed, valued, and supportive. Okay, and this, I kind of talked about leadership in the last slide, so continuing in this one. We should, I don't like the word should. It would be good if we developed meaningful diversity activities to increase our own cultural self-awareness and knowledge, awareness of others, other individuals, awareness of other communities. Okay, and as the book says, this reason is really the foundation for the other 5 reasons, because knowledge brings the power of new insights. Okay, and oops, sorry, that was it. Okay, what we're going to do in class is we are going to talk about why we are personally interested in intercultural communication. And you'll tell me what you think about these ideas. Okay, let me get out of here so I can stop this. And oh, good, already